Thank you for coming here to answer the questions from the participants. I already gave them a quick briefing, but yeah, we'll be taking questions both verbally and in text. So verbally, it's going to be the ones that have their hands raised, and then some might write them out in the Q&A channel, in which case I can read them out for you. But unless you have something you want to say right off the bat to the participants, I can immediately get to unmuting some of the people with their hands raised so that they can ask their questions.
Yes, let me just quickly grab the challenge I wrote so I completely remember what we're talking about. Okay, yes, ready.
Okay, perfect. I think yes. Lana Gordon, I have allowed your microphone so you can unmute yourself and ask your question. You still need to unmute yourself on your end, Lana, to be able to speak. Seems like there are some technical difficulties there, so we will go to Bridget instead for now, and then we can come back to you, Lana. Bridget, your microphone is allowed, so you should be able to unmute yourself now and ask your question.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, after checking about the challenge and all that, I did a little bit of research, obviously. And like the question that I have, I only like wrote like 2 questions. Because after checking everything, I also learned that like the challenges when it comes to the impact of AI in the cybersecurity industry is that like it's biased, especially with data. So basically, it can be manipulated. Therefore, my question is like, how how can we make sure that it cannot be manipulated, especially by the criminals? As the more it get advanced, obviously it means we also on our side needs to be advanced with everything. So I want to know like what are the potential security risks associated with the advanced AI and how can they be mitigated? And another question is like, how can we handle those challenges since like AI, it's always increasing, like the technology is increasing and all that. Thank you. I think I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, just checking with Elton. Elton, I am giving the answer to that. Is that partially giving away the answer to the challenge, or how would you like me to approach that?
Well, I think it's mostly up to you, since I believe that for the final selection of the winning proposals, there will be a selection made by some of the people from Microsoft. So in this case, I think it's up to you how much detail you want to give them. I mean, of course, it's a challenge, and ideally we would have participants approaching it from different directions, and maybe with different theories for answers. So yeah, as long as you don't tell them something like, oh, hey, the correct answer is this, you should make sure that you say this, and that this should be the bottom line. It should all be good if you want to give them some pointers.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, so the challenges, that was the second question we put in the challenge. There's a lot of different challenges with AI. And so the one you talk about in terms of bias is one that we have to make sure that AI works in an ethical way and doesn't disadvantage any groups unintendedly or intendedly. And then indeed, because AI has sometimes it suffers from being a black box, so we don't fully understand what's going on in terms of the outcomes that it produces versus the data that it uses as input. There is a risk that somebody somewhere in that process might interfere with it, either from the data that goes into it or what happens in the process of that data being processed by the AI system, and then that affects the results that come out of it. So there's definitely a risk, also because we understand AI systems a little bit worse than traditionally developed IT systems. that somebody messes with that, and we need to control for data integrity. Now, your question was around how do we do that? And that is currently a very hot topic in security research. So there are some controls that are currently present, like controlling the data input, making sure that we have rules and checks in between to see if data integrity has been affected somehow. Those are some of the things that we can already do, but there's still a very wide open research field on more controls that we can use to limit the risks, the security risks, and the integrity risks to artificial intelligence. I think part of that struggle is, of course, that since AI is so new in terms of its practical implementation in the enterprise, we don't always fully understand what's possible yet. So this is why it's really interesting for us from Microsoft Research to look at what we see from a threat intelligence perspective. So how are hackers using artificial intelligence? What new use cases are they trying out to use that in their attacks on organizations, on people, on governments? Because they tend to be very inventive, and sometimes they think of methods or applications we haven't thought of before. So to summarize, we do have some controls in place currently, for instance, trying to limit data poisoning or trying to do checks in between to assure that the AI system is working as intended. There is quite a wide field of research as we are trying to come up with more controls, and then attackers are exploring new use cases. So as they develop new use cases, new ways to abuse artificial intelligence, likely we'll have to respond by finding new controls to stop those ways of exploiting it.
Great, thank you very much. We will now go over to the next person with their hands up. So Nicanor, your microphone is allowed, so you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I really enjoyed the last program about AI. It was so amazing. So I got a question. I wanted to know about a challenge. Do we have actually to implement something, or is only a proposal?
So your question is the challenge to actually make something and build something, or just propose what you would do?
Yes. And the second question will be, is there any data available, or we have to find something? I don't know exactly. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes. So the idea behind the challenge is to take the perspective of you being a business leader. So this can be if you're working in an organization already, then that could be a great organization to take as an example. If you're, for instance, a student, I would recommend taking a hypothetical organization or an organization that you think is really interesting. So you could go at, I don't know, pretend you are a security leader working for Apple. What the challenge tries to do is we have a lot of conversations about artificial intelligence as something abstract. The technology, the use cases, and that is great. But in the world that I work in, and many of you would be working in if you were to work in the cybersecurity field, is that you work for an organization and they learn about artificial intelligence, they learn about the risks, the benefits, the challenges to their organization, and they want to go ahead with implementing it. And that's when you run into practical considerations on what it means to implement artificial intelligence. That is the perspective that this challenge tries to take, is put yourself into the shoes of somebody who has been asked by their business leaders to go and implement AI for their organization, and then think of the security aspects to that implementation. So you don't have to build anything. It is very much the simulation of a thought process. If you're stepping into the shoes of somebody working for a business and being tasked with putting AI into practice in an organization, and which benefits, drawbacks, challenges you then see from the cybersecurity perspective. And your second question on whether there's any data, so that depends a little bit on how far you would like to go. If you work for an actual organization and you feel okay weaving some of the elements and the data that you have for that organization into your challenge answer, that is absolutely fine with me, as long as you respect the boundaries of, confidential information for that organization. And if it's a hypothetical organization, then of course you are free to do your research on that organization from the internet and bring that in as well. But with the challenge, we did not provide any additional data that you should be using in this challenge as a mandatory requirement.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will now give the word to Dane. Your microphone is enabled, so you can unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi, I just wanted to know if you knew any real-world examples of where AI saved a company from a cyber attack.
Okay, it's a good question. So the answer to that is yes, but it depends on your definition of AI, and it depends on your definition of saved. So let me try and make that a little bit more specific. You might know that Microsoft has a product called Defender. And for instance, we've got Defender for Endpoint, and nowadays, because Microsoft has been developing Copilot, Copilot has been put into a lot of these products. So these products, they were previously not AI products, but now they've been enhanced with AI elements. And that allows us to do new things. So for instance, with Copilot for Security in Defender, we now have a process called automated attack disruption, which based on patterns that Copilot is seeing in the data, it works to a certain level of certainty and then automatically takes customized actions to interrupt the attack pattern it sees. So this is something that wasn't possible before without Copilot for Security. So you could say it's AI doing it. And then your definition of saved is there was an ongoing attack, and we have an automated process in place triggered by AI reasoning to stop that attack from happening. So it's not as dramatic, I guess, as maybe the word saved would imply, but there's lots of products out there that are now leveraging AI reasoning to really make a dramatic change to how we do defensive cybersecurity compared to the pre-AI state.
Okay, thank you. I didn't consider Windows Defender, so yeah, that helped a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now be enabling Michael's microphone, so you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hansi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is related to where it says at the end about submitting a 3-minute video. Is everyone in a group, in their designated group, have to submit their own 3-minute video, or is it a joint thing where everyone's data is then put together to do a joint 3-minute video? And can we utilize existing artificial intelligence to help in our putting together of our end video?
I think that might be more a question for Elton.
Yes. Yeah. So every group is making their own 3-minute video. So there will be no compiling of all the videos into one. Every group makes one 3-minute video. In terms of usage of AI, as long as you make sure that that you follow, like user guidelines, because what the output of this will be posted publicly on the Science YouTube channel, and this is necessary in order to be able to meet the criteria of the evaluations for the performance of the videos later. So make sure that you're aware of how your usage of AI there interacts with this being like a publicly accessible thing. Also be aware that depending on what you're trying to use AI for, it might give you some strange answers, which are not going to be entirely accurate or a good way to go about solving the question. But I'm sure you're all taking the cyber school, you're all perfectly savvy and aware of the pitfalls and stuff like that with AI. Does that answer your question, or do you want
Yeah.
another clarification?
Yeah, that basically sums it up. So basically, everyone is not submitting an individual video. The group is submitting one video as a whole. And the use of AI, basically, you're saying, is just for basic information gathering, and don't like rely on it as a crutch, but you can use it as basically a tool in your full arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's one. Yeah. The last thing you said about AI, that's correct. And in terms of the groups, yes, it's one video per. I think it's like you're in groups of 6 to 10 people. Yeah, that's how it is.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. I will now hand it over to Sibabaloe. I have enabled your microphone, so you can speak and ask your question.
Good day. Thanks, guys. My question is,
Keeping us in suspense.
Yeah.
what emerging AI-powered threats we should maybe prioritize, maybe aversion attacks or deepfakes, and also
So, Sibaba, could we ask you to start over because you cut out for a big part of your question. So if you could ask it again, thank you.
Oh, my question is on the addressing AI challenges. Ne? So my question is that what emerging AI-powered threats
We're having some connection difficulties with you, Sibab. So what we might do is we will go to the next person in line. We'll wait a little bit and then we'll come back to you, and hopefully your connection will be a bit better because it's quite difficult to see what you're saying. What you could also do alternatively is if you go to the Q&A channel on this meeting, you can type out your question instead, and then we'll make sure that the connection isn't a problem. But for now, we'll go to the next person in order, and then if you've written it in the chat, we'll read it out. Otherwise, we'll go back to you and try again verbally. I have now unmuted Paco, so you should be able to enable your microphone, so you can unmute yourself now and ask your question. We see that you're unmuted, but we cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, hello, we can hear you. Can you hear us? I think maybe we will come back to you as well. Let's try Shongu, and then we'll go back to you, Sibabalwe. Shongu, your microphone is enabled, so you can unmute yourself and ask your question. And remember that you need to unmute yourself on your end as well, Shongu, so that we can hear you. A row of technical difficulties here, it seems. Let's go back to Sibabalwe and see if the connection is better.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me just go quickly. Okay, my question is that should we focus on a specific industry organization type to make our proposal more actionable?
Yeah, so your question is, should you focus on a specific organizational type to make your answer to the challenge better?
Yes,
is that how you also understood it, Elton?
Yes, exactly.
It's an interesting question. I had not thought about that. I had not thought about that. I think AI reasoning and AI systems are relevant to all organizations, but you'll see some organizations start exploring with it sooner. because they find they have a clearer use case for wanting to do it. But I think some organizations, it's quite interesting because they might have, on the one hand, a strong potential productivity benefit versus a relatively risk-averse posture, right? They want to protect their reputation, or they really shouldn't lose customer data. They have a relatively elevated security profile. So for me personally, that would be an interesting organization to look into. On the one hand, an organization that could benefit a lot from using AI for some part of their capabilities, but also really has to take care of that security component. So these are, for instance, I guess the energy sector would fall amongst that. I think financial services are logically an area. Think of any sectors that are highly regulated. For instance, they will have a strong need to do a lot of protection anyways. Whereas with some other types of sectors, for instance, retail, often that tends to be much less regulated, and therefore they might lean just towards doing the productivity bit more than instantly worrying about the security components of it. So no requirement from the challenge really on what sector or type of organization you use. I think there are some organizations for which these questions are more important based on that they have a very strong need to keep their security needs high versus them wanting to move ahead with AI. And these typically tend to be more regulated sectors.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Two quick questions in the chat here that I can answer. I got added to two groups. Should I participate in both or choose one? No. So what you should do in that case, in case you get added to two groups, is send an email to cyberschool, one word, at hcss.nl. The email address is also in the study guide on multiple occasions. And you send an email there stating your name, saying that you're part of two groups, and then you'll get a reply to that email allocating you to one of those groups. The second question is that 3 minutes, will that be in form of a presentation of our research or something else? It should be in the form of a video that you make in together with your other group mates, and that you then email to us at that same email address before the deadline. Again, this is all in the study guide, so take a look there. And again, want to emphasize, strict 3-minute deadline. So if you go over a 3-minute deadline, your video will not be considered. So make sure you keep it to 3 minutes exactly or below. Yeah, next question, can the video run over 3 minutes? No, it cannot. So I'm now going to try with Paco again to see if the microphone is working. Or if you could hear us. So Paco, I have enabled your microphone. So if you unmute yourself, we can try again.
Hello?
Yes, hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Hello. I wanted to say, during this entire challenge, with our resources, is it all hypothetical, or do we have some sort of like using the resources to be unlimited? Like there's no limitation on how to do this challenge. Should we be realistic?
Well, I think it's most useful if it's realistic, because I think sometimes people get swept away by all of the potential of artificial intelligence. Like if you read the news and everything that's technically possible, but what I think really matters for society on the short term is how we let it land practically in our organizations. So I don't want to restrict your creativity in any form. I just think that in terms of the spirit of the challenge, it's good to make it realistic. Because if anything, I think what people working in cybersecurity benefit from is a wider perspective on how businesses function and what they need outside of us just doing cybersecurity. So that's why that was the spirit behind this challenge. But I do not wish to limit your creativity, so you can come also with slightly less realistic things, and maybe that's really interesting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's try again with Shongu to see if it's working now. Hello, Shongu. See if you can unmute yourself on your device, and then we can hear your question. Seems like we still have the same issue there. So we will move on because we are short on time to Christian. Christian, you can now unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have two questions. One was on the implementation part. So when we're coming up with the implementation, is it about in a case where there's a cyber attack, or in the case where you are coming up or integrating AI into your system? So I remember during your session you talked about data labeling, making sure that certain maybe people working on the ground don't don't get access to sensitive information. Or is it so like yeah, or even the model itself, like how to come up with a model? Is that the implementation, or do we also include a situation where there's an attack? And
So
for
it's
the
it's
second,
very much your second point. So it's indeed somebody's asked you, the board has come up to you, and they said, listen, we want to go ahead and implement this AI system, whether it is Copilot or something else. What would be your response if you were to be the CISO? What would have your concern? What would you want to make sure that you've done first before moving ahead? So it's really about implementing it in your organization and then using as a security leader, okay, but this is what I need to have in place before we do that in a safe and secure way.
okay, so nothing about attacks in case someone attacks our system.
I mean, it could be a consideration. For instance, if you have, if the request from the board is that you implement an AI system, and that AI system is going to be responsible for an absolutely critical business function, and you think it might be a good target for somebody to go and attack that, I would definitely focalize that as your concern and what it would do to business continuity if that system were to go down or be corrupted. So you can definitely bring attacks in from that perspective. But that would be part of the wider consideration of, okay, what does the business need to do to be ready for when it comes to implementing the AI system?
Okay. So, and for the video, so do we present it in a narrative form where we create this situation where we talk about, okay, so this is maybe a finance company, and we have come up with this implementation, and give all the benefits and the challenges from there? Or yeah, so is it like a story? Do we create a story for the video, or is it just benefits, challenges, and implementation, and that's it?
Yes, sure. Again, I don't want to limit your creativity, but I do think telling the narrative is a good point. So again, either take the company one of you is working for, or take a hypothetical company that you want to focus on, open a video with, hey, we are from company XYZ, this is what we do, and this is why we've been exploring AI, and indeed moving through the questions with keeping that company in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now exactly on time. How are you? Yeah, how are you doing, Esther? Can you answer a few more, or are you
I do unfortunately
busy
have a very
anywhere?
important connecting meeting. I would be willing to do another of these sessions if there's appetite, but right now I do need to leave.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for still making the time in your very busy schedule to come here and answer these questions. I really appreciate it. I have some more information to just give to the participants. So yeah, they can stay around for that. But thank you so much for coming here to answer the questions.
Yes, thank you for joining me here. I'm looking forward to your submissions. And yeah, Elton, let me know if you need me for another slot or answer any questions on email. I can also do that.
Will do.
Bye,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Yes, so the announcement I have for you is it's a very quick one. It's again, this is all in the study guide, so I recommend you go there to check it out. But you now have a short capability card exercise that is online now for the next hour. So it went online a minute ago, and it will be online for the next 59 minutes until 5 Central European time or 6 South African Standard Time. All you have to do there is to enter the game portal, which again is in the study guide. You need to play the capability cards and vote for the cards you think should have the highest priority. And this voting thing particularly is the thing that you can only do now in the next hour. And yeah, if you open the portal, if you have some confusing things, the portal itself is very self-explanatory, so it should be quite obvious what needs to be done there. But yes, just a reminder to go and check that out and make sure that you fill that in or you vote for that. And yeah, I think with that being said, thank you so much for coming here for the questions. Good luck on the voting. Good luck on your challenges. Remember the strict 3-minute limit. If it's over 3 minutes, the administrators will cut you off. So don't do that. Make sure that it's under 3 minutes. And yeah, thank you very much.